When it comes to anything related to growing my own food, all I need to do is watch one video about a new tool, a superfood that must be grown, or a new technique and I'm hooked. Last year some hydroponic videos popped up on my recommendations list and I just had to give it a try. I got myself a couple of indoor nurseries, which I've spoken about on the channel already, and that certainly scratched the itch. Looking out into my garden, I thought, all of this fence space is wasted really. It got me thinking about essentially covering it all in hydroponics. In this video, I'm going to show you how I built a simple, cheap and easy to maintain outdoor hydroponics, what I've been growing in it, and 6 months later, what I've learned. Like with most of my projects, it started with a pen and some paper. I knew I had a maximum of 5 fence panels of space. I don't want to use the one right up against the house because it may be tricky to fit everything in, and I've got my potting table there. On the 5th panel along, I have my apple tree, and I want to leave that alone as much as possible, so that one's out too. That leaves me with 3 panels, 1 tall and 2 normal height, which makes up about 18 square metres of potential growing space, which sounds promising. The water reservoir will go here, somewhere on the patio. It's close to the house and the outdoor tap, so it's easy to maintain. The water will be pumped up here. Okay, so blue pen time. If we go along, down, all the way to the left, and then back along to the water reservoir, where the water will go back in somehow. So now that I've got the rough shape, which I'm pretty happy with, I need to work out what I need to buy. So there are 12 connection points. 8 of them are 90-degree angles. The remaining 4 are in the middle of the 2 long lengths, and they're just pipe connectors. That also means that there are 12 places which need to be supported against the fence posts. That also means there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pipes needed in all. And as I know my fence panels are 2 metres wide each, that's 16 metres of piping, plus something here for these little down bits. So off to the shop I go to get an idea of prices and to see what sized pipe I need. I chose 68mm piping in the end, in white, so it wouldn't get too hot in the summer, and I had it all delivered. That was never going to fit in our Mini. I also got the pipe connectors, a few metres of water hose, and a water feature pump, which I'll go into a bit more detail on later. I also found these fence post clamps, and they're used for hanging baskets. I found them online, and I got 12 of those, and 12 of these large Jubilee clips. My theory was that the clips would go on the pipe, which would then hook onto the clamp, securing the whole pipework. I asked my best mate to take a day off work to help me build this thing. We started by roughly positioning the clamps where I wanted them, on the posts. We then put the Jubilee clips around the 90-degree connectors and hung them on the clamps. I only wanted a slight drop on each length, so using a spirit level, we then adjusted the height of the next connector so the water wouldn't pool in the pipe. We cut that to the right length and slotted it in. We didn't cut any of the vertical lengths just yet because the height of all of these clamps would need to be adjusted before it was right. We then repeated this process by eating a lot of apples and telling stupid jokes. Before we got to the last pipe, we needed to see what the height would be to fall back into the water reservoir. I bought this rubbish bin, which would hold about 100 litres of water, and the plastic was quite thick and most importantly it was cheap. I put that in place under my potting table and that gave us the height that we're working to. We then worked backwards, adjusting each clamp to ensure that we had a steady drop. We then cut and attached the verticals as we went. I added a little cut length of pipe so the water fell properly into the tank, and ran some water through to ensure it was all working correctly. We then temporarily put the pump into the water tank, ran the hose up and turned it on to see if it would pump the water high enough. It did. Success. There were some leaks, but that was to be expected and easily fixed with some PVC cement. I cut a little flap in the bin lid to try and prevent things getting into the water, and then cable tied the hose to the clamps to make it look neat. I'll be blocking off the top at some stage too. The next step was to cut the holes into the pipe, which the hydroponic baskets would then sit in. I found a pack of these little black baskets online, which would fit my outdoor system, but it also fit my indoor system. This was important, as I wanted to get the seedlings started indoors and then move them outside easily. Using a spare bit of pipe, I cut some holes using a hole cutter, which was, neatly, the exact size of the basket. However, with the basket inside, it wobbles around quite a bit and it wasn't a very nice fit at all. I guess because of the curve of the pipe. I bought a new cutter a couple of millimeters smaller, and this one held the basket quite well. My first tip here is to test a few sizes to make sure the holes you cut hold your basket securely before doing so on the actual pipework. I then measure and cut 10 equally spaced holes in the top 2 pipes. For now, I only have a few plants ready to go in, so instead of cutting all the holes and having them empty, I'll cut the new holes only when they're needed. I'll talk more about spacing, pods, baskets and nutrients later, but at this stage it's getting to winter and it'll be too cold to grow much. Let's just put what I've got growing outside and see what happens. I've got some frost hardy lettuce, Swiss chard, watercress and strawberries. I replaced any plants that were looking a little tired with fresh ones by cutting more holes when I need them. Alright, let's talk about pods and pots. This system needs to be cheap to set up and run, otherwise I may as well go and buy my food from the shop instead. The pods and baskets on my indoor system are really expensive, so I had to play around with a few ideas for making it cheaper, and these were: 1. Using the expensive baskets but a cheaper pod. They weren't a very good fit. 2. Using a cheaper pod but my baskets, and as you can see they aren't a great fit either. 3. Using wicking string instead of the pods and using my baskets. This didn't result in very good germination though, I found, as the sponge wasn't very wet and it was also a bit fiddly. And lastly, using different baskets and a cheaper expanding pod. This is what I settled on in the end. I found a big pack of these longer baskets, which housed the cheaper pods pretty well, and they fit in both the indoor and the outdoor system, though they're a bit wobbly in the nursery, but I can live with that. So here's my second tip. You may need to try a few different types and sizes of pods and baskets until you're happy and it's cheap to maintain. These pods work out to be about 20p each, which is great, and I've got enough baskets to fill both systems at the same time. Nutrients. I started by using my own compost tea, which is free, by adding a cupful every time I top the system up. This seemed to work fine, but sometimes the roots would get a little gunky or the leaves would discolour slightly, so I'm now using a concentrated nutrients mixture for use in hydroponic systems, a video for which I'll put on the channel in the near future. Essentially though, I change the water every 2 weeks and add the necessary amount of nutrients. Okay, what did I find out? The system did great over the winter and we didn't need to buy any salad or lettuce. And it kept up with us even through the coldest and darkest weeks, which I was really surprised about. The pump did cause me some problems. I needed one which would pump water high enough, in this case about 3 meters, and it would do well in cold water. I planned to have it on a timer, on for 15 minutes and then off for 15 to allow the roots to get some oxygen. However, on very cold nights, the pump would seize up as it cooled down and it wouldn't start again without some input from me. Therefore, I had it on 24/7, which the plants actually didn't seem to mind. I also noticed that the reservoir was emptying very quickly, so I extended the outlet as I thought it was causing a leak around here somewhere. I found myself filling up the system every few days, which was concerning, and some mornings the pump was almost running dry. This also meant I was wasting the added nutrients too. I then found that there was a hole in the bottom of the bucket, which had always been there, which would certainly explain why it was emptying so quickly. I replaced this with a new bucket and also got a replacement pump, as this one turned out to be faulty and it now correctly works on a timer even in the cold. By hooking the pipes onto the post clamps, it means that I can't easily adjust the height of any of the points without taking the whole system off, as they're all connected. In the future, or if I was to do this again, I'd hang the system in such a way where it's easy to adjust each point. A chain loop which the pipe hangs on instead would allow better access. I had some leftover piping, and so I cut some short sections and then cut across like so. This then snaps over and slides along the pipe, making for a cheap cover when a hole is not in use. The roots of the plant slow the water down as it runs through the system, and mine can take almost 2 minutes from top to bottom, even when it's just half full of plants. This means the pipes get very heavy. I now cut the roots down of each plant. They don't need to be as long as they are, and it keeps the water flowing. If you are going to cut the roots, some twine supports will keep the plant in place. Let's talk about cost. The piping was £60 and the pipe joints were £7. The pump and the hose together was £50. The post clamps altogether were £50, though I think there would be cheaper options here. A pack of 10 Jubilee clips was about £4. The bin was £15. The pipe cement was £7. The hole cutter was £6. The outdoor power cable and weatherproof box was £22. And the baskets I ended up using were £21 for a pack of 100. So that makes the outdoor setup in all cost around £240. You could save money though by getting a cheaper way to hang the pipes off the fence posts, and by using a second-hand water container. This would bring it to under £200. In terms of ongoing costs, a year's worth of nutrients is around £20, a pack of 80 pods is also £20, which should last about a year, and a little electricity. So 6 months later and we're in spring. The hydroponics are filling up nicely. The strawberries are flowering and my cherry tomatoes are ready to go in. Some things have worked, others not, but now that I've got the right size baskets, I've ironed out most problems or leaks, and now using a proper hydroponics nutrients, the system is performing better than expected. It is a pure joy to walk down the garden with a bowl and cut off the fresh leaves to be eaten right away. I've only harvested the salad from it so far, but to be fair, we're only just out of winter, and the fact that it grew so well during that time is amazing. It's clean, it's cheap to run, it's away from most pests, it frees up a lot of growing space in the garden where I can grow more root crops. My aim over the summer is to grow all salad, spinach, watercress, chard, kale, tomatoes, strawberries, most herbs, peppers, chilies and maybe even some cucumbers in this system. I'm also amazed how quickly everything grows. Even in the cold weather, I got lettuce started in the nursery and sometimes even just 2 or 3 weeks later, it's already outside being harvested gradually each day. There'll be a bit of tweaking of the nutrients and timings I'm sure, and if anyone watching knows the optimum amount of time to have the water running for and how long to have it off for, please do let me know and I'll be very thankful for the advice. I truly love my hydroponic setup, and given the choice to do it all again if I could go back, my answer would be a huge yes every time. And the system would be even better with the learnings that I have now. And I hope these learnings help you too if you're interested in building your own hydroponic setup. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I've been looking forward to putting this one together for you and to share my love of my new hydroponics. If there are any changes to the system or any new learnings, I'll be sure to upload them to the channel. Thank you to my patrons for their support and for helping me pay for all the bits and pieces with their memberships. If you wanted to be involved, there's a link in the description with more information. And if you've got any questions, please pop them in the comments below and I or someone from the community will help you if we can. Here are a couple of videos which you may be interested in, including the setup and review of the indoor hydroponic nurseries. Thank you so much for your time and happy growing.